like
He says,
what
start
now.
streaming now, and then his image cleared up for me. You just weren't
All right.
using enough bandwidth.
Let me know if it's up.
It was a race condition because of too
I
little.
got nothing.
bandwidth
Oh, here we
usage.
go. Got him.
Yeah, we're good. It
All
will
right.
allow me to play my backlog.
Today on.
Sure.
Mine.
All right. I think we're ready to go. This guy whipping out the controls already. We'll get to that.
Whipping.
All right, guys. I got a letter. Do you want me to read it?
Yes.
I don't know. Too many
No.
whipping my
Who it's
controllers.
from?
No.
Woo!
We got a letter. It says from the Department of NASA. I don't know what that stands for, but it sounds important. Pretend that paper. Just go with me here. It says that they're in the middle of a new moon space program. And I think they call it Artemis. They've sent one rocket, and they're going to send more. But they need the perfect, ideal control system for the rockets, for humanity. The new astronauts, they're not boomers. They're millennials. They don't know how to use the old school stuff. They need somebody to give them a rundown of the best control systems ever created. And they say that our experience helping the International Olympic Committee, we are the right brand of science to make this happen. That's right. Ranking of controllers. Today on. Did everybody brought the controllers to show and tell? That's pretty much what it is. I ain't touching my shelf. Welcome everybody to another episode of Press Me to Cancel, the greatest podcast you'll listen to, at least for today, and hopefully the rest of the weekend. I am your host this week, Sick Jake. We got a beefy episode. This is one of the biggest lists that we've done ever. We've only done 4 or 5 of these, and this is definitely the beefiest one. So we're gonna get right into it, but I can't do this alone. Nope, we are joined this week by the full crew.
But I wish you would. I wish you could. I bet you're like, God, I wish I could do this alone.
Well, I know
You'd
what
never
the
be
winner would
wrong.
be for damn sure, because you and I ain't gonna agree.
Not at
Sinister,
all.
we got Sinister this week. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How about you, sir?
That's not how this works. Wolf, how you doing this week?
I'm
no,
okay.
no, hold on. How are
Oh.
you? How are
Oh.
you?
No, this is a long ass episode. We don't have time for the pleasantries. Wolf, how you doing?
Wow.
I've been better, I guess. God.
Fuck. All right. Shit. That was what? I lasted 30 seconds? All right. GP, how are you this week?
I'm concerned for Werewolf.
And Shard, should we be concerned?
I have control issues.
The puns won't stop. All right. Here's what we're going to do. We asked the community. The community gave us the same 2 controllers. I asked the Press B team. They gave me the same 2 controllers. So I went and Googled 20 of the greatest controllers out there, both retro and modern, mostly retro. And I got a list of 20 of them. And we're going to rank these sons of bitches, as we do in the scientific method that we've established before with brackets, because there's no better way of doing this. There's a lot of them.
I can't wait for the Nest Advantage to be number 1.
Man, this guy won't answer how he's doing, and then he disparages me and says I gave him the same 2 controllers. I gave you 2 unique controllers,
Okay.
my friend.
You're the only one who gave me unique controllers.
'Cause
Everybody else gave me the same shit,
But
and
the
that's
other
fine.
4 of us gave him the same
filled
2
out
unique controllers.
To be fair, you filled out the list before I could even respond.
I was waiting for you guys to
Good point.
respond. I'm sorry, you guys are
And
too
half of them
slow.
were peripherals. They weren't even controllers.
All
Even
right,
spoilers.
all
Tell you what,
right. You want to know
I'll
how
email
I'm
my
doing?
boss
I'm doing
next
fan
time.
fucking tastic right now.
There we are.
Good.
Now it's a party.
Good.
All right.
I'll let my
I'm
boss
great.
know that I have prior engagements about filling out a survey on Discord.
We've been doing
Sure,
this
he'll
for a
be
while.
Pleased.
All right. Our first bracket, our first matchup. And these were randomly done this time. I swear this time. I've dumped it into a
Okay.
website that does brackets. It's all randomized. So some of these are going to be a little bit weird. Some of the controls had buys. I got nothing to do with it. That's just the website. Our first
Skynet.
matchup.
Yeah.
Don't get me started on AI. I'll do a whole episode on Chat GPT. Just you watch. The Atari CX40 joystick, the original Atari 2600 joystick, versus the original Xbox, the Duke. Now that's the
Oh.
big one.
Oh.
So
okay.
who
All right.
wants to talk about the Duke first and explain what it looks like for the audio listeners? And because I'm not going to show images, Sinistar, you want to explain what the Duke is and give a
Yes.
case for it.
Yeah. Okay. So imagine a modern Xbox controller, but add about 20% the size on top of it,
At
and
least.
then actually make it a little rounder, and have a gigantic green X right in the center that is not a functional button.
It lights up.
Yeah,
though,
it's
right?
about the no, because there
Take
was
the screen
there was
off.
no-
If you take the screen off,
It's that.
No,
I
it's
don't
just a little
remember.
jewel.
Yeah, it's just
Oh.
a jewel. It's like but and then so on top of it you have dual analog sticks, you have a D-pad. On the right side you have your 4 AB XY,
Yep.
maybe
Yes.
XY.
yes.
But you also have
But in the
two
wrong
additional
spots.
you have a white and a black button that were on the bottom side of it, of the buttons, and then you do have shoulder buttons.
Actually, at the
But
top.
the-
The black and white
you're
were at
right.
the top on the Duke.
They
Oh,
moved
the
them
top?
to the bottom. They moved them to the bottom
On the
next
smaller
version,
S version, yeah. But the original
Yeah.
Duke had 6 face
Um,
buttons up in the top.
The key takeaway though is that the largest complaint for this controller was the absolute unit type size of this controller. So
The
if you're
girth.
not familiar
The girth,
with,
it's
if you're not
thick,
familiar
yeah.
with, go to Reddit/absolute unit r/absolute unit. It's all about like large size. So
Try not to look
don't-
that up at work, please.
yeah,
Yeah,
don't look that up
please.
for work. Actually, most of it is safe for work. Most of it genuinely is. But not
Okay.
Well,
Don't go
yeah,
to
but I mean,
Tumblr.
most of. I mean,
Stay out of Tumblr.
yeah.
yeah.
Okay. And
But,
so let me describe the,
and then-
the Atari one before you give your case
Yeah.
about the Duke. So the other side, we got the Atari CX40. This is the original joystick. Before the Atari 2600, it brought the joystick. Home consoles were basically paddles, right? Like you had your home Pong units and you had paddles, you had rolly things, and you had number pads. The Atari CX40 was the original black joystick, and we've all seen pictures of it. Square base, really like skinny stick, and one big red button. That's all it was. A very simple control device, but this is one of the first home consoles that was in mass produced.
and the stick was actually covered by a rubber sleeve.
Yes. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like a rubber
Looked like a
sleeve,
gear
rubber
ship.
grip, the rings on the
Don't
bottom,
worry,
and it's
Wolf's
stiff.
got us.
Yeah.
Which in 90% of the
Yes.
cases
No, it's a
that
foam
sleeve
squishy replica.
in most cases that sleeve would eventually come off.
It looked
Yeah.
like a stick shift.
It would break very easily. The thing with the CX40 was you could break it in a bad way. Like it would definitely wear out over time. I went through 3 of them as a kid, and I had the 2600 for 5 years, I think. So it definitely was not the sturdiest joystick of its time, but it was definitely the original one, and it was a single button. Games on the Atari, for the most part, were one button. So those are the two we have. So yeah. GP.
Okay. Oh, go ahead.
Atari wins this one. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I was going to make my case for the Duke because
I don't think you need to.
because I will say in my
You're allowed.
choice,
That's fine.
the Duke wins for me.
Mm.
And the reason why is I have massive paws. I have absolutely massive paws. That controller.
I didn't
Probably was
realize
my
this was a
favorite
bragging
controller.
episode.
Look, it's not about the size of the hands. It's about the motion of the palms.
Sands?
I don't know. Yeah.
So is that the
Um,
category for winning though? Is whether or not you have big enough hands to use
Well, no. I was going to say here's my other complaint with the Atari controller was, as I mentioned, that plastic sleeve came off in most cases. Mine always came off, and there is a spindly little hard white stick underneath it that if you
My high
continue
school
to play,
nickname?
yes,
I feel attacked all of a sudden.
if you play with that, because everybody couldn't afford new controllers like Jake, and so if you used it with that white spindly stick, it would chew into your hands. I can't tell you how many times the like soft tissue between my thumb and my index finger was just raw.
Yeah.
From playing with that joystick.
I hear you, but here's my thing. with the Duke, like you said, you got to have big hands, okay? And I get it, and that's fine. But just a quick little visual thing for an argument for the Atari. Big hands, use the Atari. Small hands, use the Atari. Arthritic hands can still use Atari. I gotta say,
hands can use the Atari stick.
Yeah, it's true.
that for
It is
me, that's
more
why it wins.
accessible. It also can't kill a small child if thrown properly.
Now that's the
I would
measurement
rather-
for all
I
these
would
controllers
rather-
today. Can you murder a
Hold on.
child with this
Rather-
controller?
Hold on.
That's my. Hey, listen. You grade your way, I grade mine. I would rather replace the boot on a controller than have to deal with that monstrosity of a controller that Xbox thought
Now-
was a good release.
I want to point out, though, that in the age of plug-in controllers, which both of these require a cable, the Xbox original controllers had a breakaway point that would make it so that you wouldn't like wing your console somewhere if you
Yes.
moved wrong.
That's actually a really
And
great
that-
feature.
That
Yes.
was. Mhm.
Sure.
That was
doesn't
something
matter.
I
Here's
really,
my
really liked.
Wolf. I know you want to go and you got things to say. I'm going to say this real quick, and then
No,
it's
I'm
all you,
done.
baby.
That's it.
No, I just don't want to be rude. I can't be. He's all fuck you. Anyways,
He doesn't know.
how
He
many?
doesn't know.
How many buttons does the Atari need to work?
One.
Like one. Thank you. How many buttons does the Xbox Duke need to work? A lot. Guess what? I can't fucking reach them without getting in a horse and buggy to drive over from the B to the Y button. Okay. There's no reason to have literally a globe in my hands to play a game. I only need 2 buttons to work the Atari. It is built exactly how it needs to work. You're wrong. Move on. Wolf, what do you got?
I mean, I hadn't considered that, but I was gonna say that the breakaway point was actually like kind of huge while chords were still a thing. Like it's weird that that wasn't developed much sooner in console lifespans as a regular thing. Like, even I have a Saturn controller, the 3D controller, and even that, like, you could remove the end of it, but it wasn't breakaway; it was locked in.
Right. Right.
Huh.
That thing's
That's a good
sending your
thought.
Saturn flying if you trip. Everything's
goes-
locked in hard.
Goes
with that
from a
thing, so
projectile to a.
I don't know what the purpose of that
star.
was,
Probably a replacement, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but yeah, that. But I mean, at the same time, I mean, if you trip on an Atari cord, that thing's just gonna fall out. Have you seen those ports? It's
Sure,
the same as
but
the Genesis and
well,
the Master System.
Yeah.
They're barely in there when they're in there.
for the
It's
first
also
2
made
weeks,
out of the body of dead Buicks, but that's cool.
for the first 2 weeks, you're gonna trip and knock your console over. And then at that point the socket will have loosened up enough.
We call that wearing the item
Yeah.
in, okay? It's comfort.
Yeah.
Yeah, breaking
this
it
is-
in. Yeah.
The Duke versus the Pilgrim.
That's a good name
Pilgrim
for it.
wins.
That could be an episode
So-
title.
Where are the votes so far? I'm curious.
Pilgrim.
GP is
Atari. What'd
Yeah.
you call it? The thin white stick? Isn't that David Bowie's stage name? Oh, it was the thin white Duke. My bad. Sorry.
I kind of feel like I'm the only one that's for the Duke. I kind of feel like that.
See, here's my take, because I haven't really said my take. So the Atari joystick, I have a lot of nostalgia for it. It's my first console. The one problem I have with it, though, is the Atari 2600 and future Ataris had a couple dip switches on the console itself for difficulty, or game modes is what it was most commonly used for. So you could change game modes in the Atari, but you had to use the console. You couldn't do it on the joystick. So not all the features of control were on the joystick.
I remember those. It's
Yeah.
next to the wood paneling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it was neat. The Duke also, the thing with the Duke, those white and black buttons, very difficult to reach with your finger. They're really shittily placed. And I don't mind a big controller. I also have big hands, not to brag. I like a big girthy controller, and that's why I like some other ones on this list. But the big giant green jewel, it's not a button. It doesn't light up. It doesn't really do anything. I'd rather they just have taken that out and put more, or make the buttons bigger. Like, use the space better. It feels like it's big for no reason. And this is the only controller I think that's in the list that was actually replaced. They replaced it with the Xbox controller S, which moved the white and black buttons to the bottom. Still really hard to use, and they made the controller smaller. So it's the only controller I think on this list that got replaced, which seems a bit odd to me. So I'm kind of torn. I'm not sure if I should vote for the Atari joystick or the Duke. I like how the Duke pioneered a lot of the design of modern controllers, but I think I like the Atari more just for the nostalgia factor.
You don't need a 28-foot ladder fully extended to get between buttons to use the Atari joystick. So
I thought it
that
was a
seems like
Duke.
the easy
I thought it
answer.
was a horse and buggy.
It's shorter doing some of the
Pick-
buttons. Like the
pick your
black
metaphor,
and,
sir.
the black and white ones are, you know what? You're a metaphor and I'm sick of it.
I think I'm going to say Atari joystick for me.
Let's go. What do you got,
Wolf,
Wolf?
what about you?
Well, I've never actually played with the Duke, but I do remember a lot of complaints about the just sheer magnitude of this thing when it first released. People were like, the controller's too big. And it's my uncle was like, yeah, I love how big the controller is. But most people were like, nah, it's too big. What the hell were they thinking? So, I mean, yeah, it was nice for a few, but for the majority, it was too much controller. So
Did you know, fun fact, you can pop the lid off of the Jewel and physically get inside the controller? I did it for 20 minutes before I realized it wasn't my car.
I thought they smelled bad on the outside.
That's
No,
okay.
they smell like Cheetos and shame on the
And,
inside.
and we have 17 of these brackets.
Yeah, okay. So the Atari
Yeah.
CX40
Well, the
versus
Atari
the
takes this one.
Duke. The Atari takes it. Yeah. Moving on to the next round. All right. Next
Fucking
up,
winner.
this one will probably be a lot faster. I think it will be. We got the Nintendo Switch Joy-Cons versus the Nintendo Switch Pro Controller. I appreciate the tech that's in a Joy-Con, but I've gone through 2 pairs of the damn things. I've sent them in repair several times to Nintendo, and while I thankfully don't have to pay for the repairs, the fact that I have to do that to fix drift is stupid. These things are a waste of fucking money. They're tiny, they're hard to control. I get the idea of splitting one pair into 2 little controllers to play games, but I'd rather just hook up an actual full-size controller. I hate the Joy-Cons so very much. Versus the Switch
The
Pro
only-
controller, which has amazing battery life, feels good in the hands. It seems like a no-brainer. I think it's even cheaper than Joy-Cons. So for me, it's Switch Pro controller easily for this.
The only
Looks like a
value that the Joy-Con has is the ability to attach it to the Switch. That is the only value that the Joy-Con has.
Yeah.
Otherwise, yeah, the Pro controller, that is my vote.
I'm gonna jump in here too. I gotta say, my vote also goes with the Pro controller. When I was playing Zelda when I first got my Switch back when it released, I did mostly play it in handheld mode because I mean it's a Switch. Why the fuck would you not play it in handheld mode, right? And that's why I love my Switch. I can play it on the couch while hanging out with the wife and kid, and just get into a game and then sleep it if I need to, and get back in whenever. But if it's sitting down and playing for a serious gaming session, the Pro controller beats the Joy-Cons so badly, it's absolutely ridiculous. And I believe the Pro controller actually has longer battery life than the Joy-Cons.
I believe.
Oh, it surprised me.
not mistaken.
I believe that. I mean, that
It's
thing's
crazy.
a lot beefier than the other 2 pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that. Like the Joy-Cons are well designed for the most part. I agree with the Joy-Con drift issue, but otherwise they're well designed for what they're meant to be, and that is
Sure.
connect to the Switch and play in handheld and remove, which means
Sure.
that they're actually my one issue with the Switch Lite is they're unreplaceable on the Switch Lite. Worst case, if you need new Joy-Cons, you can go buy new Joy-Cons. Boom, your Switch is back to good as new. But
Yeah.
on a Switch Lite, you don't have that possibility. So the Pro controller by far is my vote.
I agree. I think the more interesting conversation would be the Joy-Cons versus the nunchuck for this for the Wii.
I agree.
Yeah,
I mean,
no,
yeah.
hands
Yeah.
down, Pro controller. It's one of my favorite controllers, probably of the past 3 generations, in fact. But yeah,
It's definitely up there.
I
was like,
I
only
agree.
play my Switch on handheld mode. I don't usually attach it to the TV, but if I were to use it for its other surface, I don't think I could use the Joy-Cons. I think this is unanimous.
Yeah.
I don't have the Pro controller, but looking at it as you guys showed it off, it looks just like my PlayStation controller. It has the same layout and same feel. If it lasts longer, If I'm playing it on my TV and I'm not playing it in my hands, in my face, to me that makes more sense. So I would definitely, I go with that controller with you guys too.
Like I'll say for the Joy-Cons, I actually replaced the Joy-Cons on my Switch handheld with third-party fake Joy-Cons. They're a little bit bigger. They have it has a D-pad in the left one, and they light up. They feel cheap, but they play far better than the official Joy-Cons. They may not have HD Rumble, whatever the hell that even means, or the IR thing, but they're amazing for
you know
playing the
what?
Switch handheld.
I have to give points to the HD Rumble, and it's such a gimmicky feature that I've not seen used much at all.
Like, where's it been
the only
used?
the only time I actually remember feeling it and being like, "Holy crap, that's cool as hell," was for Blaster Master Zero of all games.
Really?
You went, and it was specifically one specific thing. When you jump in and out of the water in that game, in the tank, it actually feels like, when you smash your hand into the pool of water, like if you're swimming, and you sort of feel that like change in how it,
the tension or
like,
the
tension and everything.
yeah.
It
Okay.
feels like that when you splash in with the Switch in your hand. It's so weird.
I
And
love
I
you so
thought
much.
that was super cool, but I've not really seen it used since then. So
I feel
it's
like
such a
we need
niche.
to. Feel like we need to have a disclaimer here. Don't slam your Switch into a pool of water, people.
No.
Yeah, please don't. Yeah. No matter how
Damn
many
it, I
you
was just
want,
gonna
much
go
you
do
may
that.
want to play Bayonetta, please don't smash your Switch into a pool of water.
Is HD? It is the best action game of 2022. Is HD Rumble basically haptic sense? Is that basically what it is? It's just haptics,
Yeah.
Well,
or is it something different?
I mean, if you look at the definition of haptics, everything that vibrates is haptics. But
Jesus, God damn it! I
But
was
it's-
just asking to
it's got-
understand.
the motor sensitivity in the Joy-Cons has been bounced across the whole controller, and that there's a better variety of speeds compared to like vibration in other controllers. Like even the 8-bit Do and the Wii Pro controller don't have the same vibration as the Joy-Cons. Actually, does the Pro controller even vibrate? I don't think it does.
I think it has Rumble, but I don't think it's HD.
Yeah.
So because you got Rumble Pack and haptic sense are the same damn thing. So I didn't know if there was something special about it, or it was just a fancy Nintendo name of it's an HD Rumble Pack.
The way it
It's
throbs
just
in your hand.
fine-tuned Rumble.
Haptics.
It is
That's
better
it.
than
Throbbing.
normal. Yeah.
Okay. Doesn't rumble, it throbs. Noted. Okay.
If
Sinister,
a
what are your
game makes
thoughts on
use
this
of
one?
it, it's cool as hell. Otherwise,
my thoughts are I kind of alluded that like the only value to the maybe the HD Rumble, I don't know, but the only value is the ability to use the Switch in portable mode, like genuinely. But that said, funny enough, when I was traveling a lot and I was using my Switch on the planes, I would bring down the tray table. I had a little kickstand for my Switch, and I would actually pull the Joy-Cons off and had the little Joy-Con converter, and I would play that way on the plane instead of.
They would allow that, the Switch on the plane.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had a buddy that did the Joy-Cons too, and he'd sit back and he'd play it like this. And I'm like, that seems so weird, dude. Like, I don't even know how you do that.
Everything with the Joy-Cons is weird. Everything.
Yeah.
People who
And-
use them, people who like them, they're just a weird device. That's
Wow.
I'd rather a
let's
Wii
not,
remote than anything else.
Let's not shun audience members, but
Here's an
Don't at
excellent
us.
statement on the Joy-Con. We have Clubhouse 51. I don't know if you guys have that or have played it.
I've heard of it.
Requires that if you play two players on the same console, that you're each using a Joy-Con.
yeah, I've heard
Why?
about that.
Cannot
Yeah.
use any other controllers for some reason.
Yep.
I don't know, but it's extraordinarily frustrating that that is the limitation in that game, and that should let you know right there, you know, which wins, the Pro controller or the Joy-Con.
Yeah.
You're frustrated that you're stuck with a Joy-Con.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So it sounds like we're unanimous. That's not a word. Nintendo Joy-Cons versus Switch Pro controller. I'm tired, guys. Switch Pro controller wins unanimously across the board. All right. This one's a bit tougher of a battle. You got to look, don't be biased right away when I say these two. I want you to think hard, be fair, think about
Super
both
Nintendo
sides of the
controller
argument.
wins every single time.
No, it's not Super Nintendo controller. Actually, is that even on
No.
here? Nobody told me about the SNES controller.
It
I thought
better
you had
be.
it
I
on
guess
the
we'll
list.
have to
Better
see.
be. It was on the thumbnail.
Listen, if you're using
Right?
the Skynut garbage
You
and
can't
it did not
clickbait
select the
things.
greatest controller in all of gaming, We need
All
to
right.
we need to cancel this
All right.
episode now.
Look, it's not the
Although
first time you
Beyonce
guys have
wasn't-
not given me important things for these lists. Anyway, it's
'Cause
not
you
the
know-
SNES controller.
I see it in
That's
the list
gonna
in
be
Discord.
a unanimous vote.
Unanimous?
PS1 DualShock. Fuck you all. PS1 DualShock versus the PS5 DualSense controller. That's how the brackets laid it out. Now, before you guys say PS5 controller, because I know you're going to, I don't give a fuck. I hate PlayStation controllers to begin with. But the PS1 DualShock, this is the one that came after. People
Yeah.
tend to forget that the PS1, when it launched, didn't have analog joysticks on it. That came later, and that was the DualShock. So the DualShock
Yep.
is the first PS controller with analog sticks, pioneering that form factor for the next, 4 generations of PS controllers?
So you guys know me and my ego. I want to assume that I need to go first all the time. But this is something that I've been trying to figure out throughout the week as I've been preparing and doing research for this. If you have one that kind of sets the standard, can the ones that come after it beat it? I mean, by definition, it's like this is what started it. We
Yeah.
have this conversation sometimes. Can Johnny Cash's cover of Hurt be better than Janis Joplin's original? We don't know.
Yes.
So I don't know. I
Yes,
love the PS5.
you
As a
can.
resident PS5 expert, I love my PS5 controllers. I know I'm usually sarcastic, but I mean that. But there's a huge amount of my heart that remembers how game changing it was when I got the first DualShock PS1. I was playing Metal Gear Solid, and I remember the fluidity of that. And then even when there was the the haptics of it, the throbbing of it.
I had the
me
fluidity
back.
once, but it went away after a week. Yes, you can have the original controller either be the best or have worse variations that come after that. Like Johnny Cash's version of Hurt is great, but Machine Gun's Kelly version of Hurt is hot fire trash. So, you know what I'm saying? So you can have one good one, like 9 Inch Nails' original version of Hurt. I'm going to fix this before we get totally
We're
added.
going to
Right,
get
of
so many
course.
complaints,
Thank
Chard.
you.
You have no idea. It's too late.
I'm sure it is.
They're already after us.
As the resident 9 Inch Nails aficionado,
Whoa.
I would take
Whoa.
I would take issue with that.
you can all take issue with that. You're all
Am I-
wrong.
Am I
Anyways.
chopped liver here?
Yes, you are. When it comes to 9 Inch Nails, yes. Anyways, yes, you can either
Shots
have
fired.
improvements on the original, or you can say the original was so good we didn't need to change it, but we did anyways, and it's worse than it came out. So
Okay, you sold me.
improvements on
PS5.
the original. I'm going PS5. I love this
PS5.
controller. I don't even own a PS5, but I use this controller for literally everything. I use it for my Steam Deck. I use it for my PC. I would use it for my PlayStation 4 if it allowed me to do it. This controller is sick. It's comfortable. It feels great. It works phenomenal everywhere. Oh, yeah, whatever.
Tell me you have this. Tell me you have
Yes,
this.
of course I have that. I'm a 9 Inch Nails aficionado.
You
I
have
have the
Disturbed?
mini broken disc too. We'll go ahead and have that conversation later. How wrong you
Yeah.
are. PS5 controller over.
Okay, so the thing with the DualShock is because the PlayStation 1 didn't start with analog controls, there are not as many games that actually use it. Metal Gear Solid, yeah, absolutely a good example. The other example I have is Ape Escape. Ape Escape is a fantastic game. I wish we get sequels. It's just an amazingly fun platforming game, and it used both the sticks at the same time to do various functions, and it did it in a unique way. Like when we're comparing like 3D platforms of the age, like Mario 64 and Banjo-Kazooie and whatnot, Ape Escape, although it's not nice as looking, control-wise, it actually holds up really well, and it's all thanks to the two analog sticks. So I think the PS1 is definitely setting a standard. It's iconic. I think it's a classic. I mean, I'm going to leave it up to you guys. I'd probably vote for the PS1 controller, but if you guys want to go with the 5, that's fine by me. Again, I've never used the 5, so.
I got to go with the 5, but I will say, do you guys remember tank controls for Resident Evil and Resident Evil 2?
Yes.
Like, I almost feel like I should vote for it just because I made it through that era in controllers.
Yeah.
But I officially locked me in for PS5 with mad respect for the PS1.
Same.
I have not used the PS5 controller. Sorry, Wolf. I have not used the PS5 controller, but I have definitely used up through the PS4. And I feel like iteratively they do make them better. So I feel like the 5 would be a better controller. So simply based on iteration up through the PS4 controller, I will go with the PS5 as well.
I also have never used a PS5 controller. I've never held one. But you know, I used a PS4 controller for years as my computer gaming controller, and it's super comfy. But when I started using it, it had been a long time since I held a DualShock 1 or 2, which are basically identical visually. Um, and I was like, this feels pretty much the same. But holding one of each in my hands right now, they feel so different. And the PS4 is so much more comfortable and streamlined that I'm pretty sure the PS5 has probably nailed that feeling. And I got to give it to the PS5, even if the PS1 and 2's DualShock was still very well designed for the time.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. It makes sense. PS5
Simple math.
DualShock. Yeah.
5 goes to 1. 5 number 1. Let's have it. It's all right.
Okay, I'm not going to argue
nails,
I won't argue your math, even though it's 4-1, but that's okay. So the PS5 DualSense versus the PS1 DualShock. The PS5 takes it 4-1. That's fine.
4-1.
All right.
Wow.
Well, I'm voting for the anyway. We're moving on.
You said you didn't care.
I don't care, but I still get a vote. Do you want to leave this to the fucking hat again? Is that how we're going to decide ties? That's why we're all here today.
No.
That's why we're here.
Can I veto? Can I veto? I don't know if I have veto power.
There's no veto. The hat is just the eternal tiebreaker, unfortunately. So it is written, so it shall be.
We're a democracy, but with a hat.
Oh fuck, he's bringing it out.
Dictatorship. No, he's got a new hat. Oh Jesus.
That's not the hat.
Why you're not the biggest Nine Inch Nails fan.
That's not William Shatner. Anyway, all right. Our next matchup is the NES Advantage. That's the joystick monstrosity. I don't know why it's on a best of list, but the NES Advantage versus the Nintendo GameCube controller.
Wow.
I mean, arcade controls at home. That's a thing, I guess. I just wish the controller was good. The Advantage buttons are terrible.
Hang on, I have an answer for this selection. I have an answer for this selection, and that is
Don't.
You're gonna upset GP.
Milk fed veal.
All right. The only benefit to the NES Advantage, and yeah, it works for Fester's Quest, is it has built-in turbo and like slow-mo, which is like just hitting start over and over again. I guess that's a feature. Yeah.
You mean the annoying button.
I guess that's a feature. That's what it's got. But the GameCube controller, I can't stand. I find the design in the game controller just hideous. It's very much a Nintendo controller, and at a time when everybody else was trying to adopt a standard of 2 analog sticks and face buttons to play games with as like across the board, Nintendo's like, no, we're gonna go do something different because it's fun. Here's a big ass green button and some weird peanut things on the side and really shitty analog sticks or analog triggers. Like, it's a shitty controller, but Smash fans love it and worship the thing like the Bible. I can't stand the GameCube controller, but I also think the NES Advantage is trash.
And then they smashed a Metroid Prime into a single stick game. If you want to see Metroid Prime and how it should be played, play it with Prime Hack with a dual stick controller.
Yeah.
They fixed it. They fixed it.
Okay, I'm glad that you mentioned Prime, because there are 2 games that I really appreciate the GameCube for vis-a-vis controller. One was Metroid Prime. I didn't think when I picked up my GameCube when it first came out that I would like these controls at all. You're right. It's hideous. Everything about this thing sucks. And then learning Prime was the first time where I realized I got good with this controller. And I mean, Prime has gone on to be better ported to the Wii, with the chucks. And then that, I think, is the right way to play it. But the first time I realized, okay, I do like this controller was with Metroid Prime 1. The second time was Mario Golf Toadstool Tour. I don't know. I don't really know how to explain it, but I got really good and really fast at lining things up. And I found that the responsiveness in the, both of the little joysticks was very responsive and very accurate to where the minute you let it go, it stops. And I, for that period of time, had never seen a joystick be so responsive and accurate. So between those 2, I'm going to go with the GameCube. but I do love the Advantage, even though it sucks. I love it, even though it sucks.
So
love
I
it.
have to bring up a game that's on my top 5, which
Mm,
is Eternal Darkness, Sanity's
mm.
Requiem, which is a GameCube game. Now, a single analog stick controller works fine for that game because it's like Resident Evil, where it's a stationary room and you simply move your character around in it. There's no first person aspect, it's third person. You're looking at the environment. Otherwise, that controller is trash. That controller is absolute trash. I'm going with the NES Advantage only because it functions mostly like a NES controller.
I
I
think
cannot believe what I'm hearing.
That
I
GameCube
think
controller
outside
has a
of
C stick though. It has 2 sticks, doesn't it? It has a gray
It
one
does.
and it has a yellow one.
It
They're both
does.
analog.
Thank
Yes.
you.
But
Yeah.
but
Thank
they
you.
they function differently though. That
Okay.
that yellow stick I think is not. I mean, it's analog, but it technically I think is an 8-point potentiometer.
Okay.
sure.
You're a
Words.
potentiometer and pedantic. 4 words for you, gentlemen. 4.
Oh.
Listen and listen well. Ready?
That's 5 words.
Yeah.
Hogwarts. Quidditch. World Cup.
If we
What's
could
with
have
you
one
and
episode where
Quidditch?
you don't bring up this
Controller.
game,
To fly around on a broom is obviously the GameCube controller. GameCube controller is an amazing controller. I love that controller. I liked playing Metroid on the single stick. I thought it was fun. I thought having the yellow controller to be able to change my visions and shit and all that stuff, I thought that was very innovative. I felt comfortable using that. And when you finally, like GP said, when you kind of figure out where everything goes, you just kind of know. It's almost like you just learn it. And once you learn it, you never forget it. It's like riding a bike. I like
Well,
the
it-
GameCube controller. I think it's great.
Yeah.
It's like
It's a
riding a
Don't-
big
don't
wheel
sneer
bike,
at me.
like a penny
No.
farthing. One big wheel and one small wheel. That's what the GameCube controller is. It's
You know
lopsided
what? I can ride
monstrosity.
it. Guess what? I pulled up on that bad boy, and you were looking up at me. You know why? Because it's a higher power.
But that's
GameCube.
that's the point. I think to that GameCube controllers with the C stick or whatever, the yellow sticks, it becomes so absurd to think that you could use that as a regular joystick anyways. That's what this one's for. This one is only for
I don't need it.
the options. It's a
I have
potentiometer.
precision turning in one hand, in one thing. Precision.
Yeah.
You said it yourself. I could golf in a straight line. Bow. You're good to go.
It was great.
It's GameCube all the way. I can't even believe
And-
we're having this conversation over the
What's-
NES Advantage.
Yeah.
What's
The
more
NES
precise than
Advantage.
4 directions that are clearly available on the NES Advantage?
I would rather use a brick than the NES Advantage to play a game.
We already talked about the Duke. Don't worry about the Duke. It's out.
Touche. If you put this up against the Duke, then the NES Advantage would win.
Yeah.
But
there
this,
you
I
go.
don't even know how this is a conversation.
Just
I
the
don't even
NES
know why we're
Advantage.
still talking about this.
Because
So I'll
it's
tell you,
us.
the NES Advantage taking arcade
Touche.
controls and trying to bring it home economically and cheaply, I think is why I like the Advantage. I'm actually kind of liking the turbo feature actually, because that's not very common in controllers of the era.
Oh, look at this guy.
And you know what?
Look at
Playing
this
Silver
guy.
Surfer,
You can't
playing
change your
Infestor's
vote when you
Quest.
voted, sir.
It's accessibility. Accessibility in gaming is very important today. NES Advantage in the fucking 90s brought that back or started
was
it.
cool.
I think the NES Advantage is the winner for me.
It was cool, but the NES did it better later with the Max. I'm sorry, I'll let you go.
I have 2 words. Count them. Ready? 2 words. Ghostbusters 2.
That'd be impossible on the NES controller. You need the
No,
Advantage.
yeah.
they controlled the Statue of Liberty with a NES Advantage.
Oh, well, there you go. See, okay, that's right.
Yeah.
It was in a movie. GameCube wasn't in a movie.
Power Glove is in a movie.
Yeah,
But that's on the
and we
list.
don't have
You
Power Glove on
deemed
the
that
list.
was not suitable for the list, GP. That and the Zapper.
No, it wasn't because nobody loves the Power Glove more than I do. But
It's fine. When the NES Advantage gets top spot in our final 3, and you guys go, I can't
No,
believe.
hold on,
that the NES
let's turn to Wolf.
got
Wolf,
into the top
Wolf,
who's the
what do you
winner here?
think?
Sounds like we're
selection.
2-2. Sounds like
You
we're
all
2-2.
look at yourself in the mirror. Thank you,
GameCube
Wolf.
controller.
Thank
Okay?
you. All of you guys
There's-
can go look at
it's-
yourselves in the mirror.
The button layout on the left is unusual, but
But it
very
works.
workable. It's not like the Duke or the original Xbox controller design where the buttons are way out in Timbuk 3. It's and then on your analog stick, they actually considered the fact that you might want to run straight perfectly or in an exact direction instead of, slightly off kilter, like you tend to do with a lot of analog games, especially in the era. They
Yeah.
gave you that fine 8 points to work with, even if it was an analog stick.
Gave
And I
you the
appreciate that.
gave you the detents to be able to detect when you were in a correct position. Yeah.
Yes.
Potentiometer.
Also, to bring up the Duke again, I don't have to tell my parents that I'm going into town for a week and will be back. And if I'm not back in a week, panic just because I need to pause the game. You don't have to do that with GameCube controller. It's all right there in front of you.
Love it. It
Okay.
tracks.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm trying to add this math up, and Chart's math is throwing me for a loop. All right, so are we seriously
call
going
that shower
GameCube
math.
controller?
Yes.
Yeah,
It's
Yes.
game.
All
It's
right.
GameCube.
Unironically.
It's
All
GameCube
right.
3-2.
All right, fine. GameCube controller
Me and
beats the
Chart, by
NES
the way, both batting
advantage.
1,000 right now.
Uh-huh,
So.
Yeah, I'm sure you are. Son of a bitch.
That's it.
I love
All
you,
right,
buddy.
our next matchup is one of the buys, and that is the NES, the original NES controller, the NES brick. I have it on the list. The original, the classic, the square rectangle thing, whatever you call it, versus the Atari CX40 joystick. That's how it fell out.
Oh,
Okay.
What do you guys
mouth
think?
farts.
The two red button, the iconic
NES.
black D-pad versus the
NES
Atari.
controller.
Yeah.
NES
Yeah, give me the
controller.
brick. Give me
Yeah.
the brick
NES
9 times
controller.
out of 10 and twice on Sundays.
Yeah.
Okay.
As
As
uncomfortable
much
as it
as that-
is, yeah.
Yeah, as much as that thing wore my thumb out to a nub, I'll take it.
If there's one thing you can say about the NES brick is that it was durable as all hell. That thing would never break. Compared to the Atari joystick, like you said, Sinistar very well. The thing did break quite often and very easily. It broke in, so it wore out so easily. The NES brick, to this day, people are fishing them out and refurbishing them, and they just play like a dream. Again, uncomfortable, but they play really well. So I would say the NES brick myself too.
Listen,
Can I show you
because-
guys?
Go
Oh,
ahead, Wolf.
Sarge,
You
go
go
ahead.
ahead. No,
I
you
was
go
gonna
ahead.
say,
Wolf.
can I show you guys how timeless the NES brick is?
Please.
I have a PS2 dual analog stick controller shaped like the NES brick, made by Mad Cats. It's got all the buttons that a PS2 controller should have, but it's the NES fucking brick.
That's
Love it.
awesome.
And
Love
I
it.
bought it.
Well, not only is
bought
it
it.
timeless for that, but everybody get your bingo
Get your
card.
bingo
I'm
cards
pointing
out.
I'm pointing at the background.
So it's just pointing at the shelf again.
There is a Lego version of the NES brick right there.
Love it.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Listen, I owe the NES brick to two very important things in my life. First of all, not having a felony on my record because it wore off my fingerprints that they couldn't figure out who I was. And it was the first controller that I finished my very first game, Chippendales Rescue Rangers, on. And
Oh.
that will always go down in infamy with me.
That's
NES brick all the way, without question.
Can we also appreciate that this shape, 20 years later, 25 years later, just became the Nintendo Switch, left-hand controller? No, like seriously, if you that's
no,
why
I get
you
it.
can do that.
Well,
Fucking
and
brilliant.
and arguably more comfortable than an iPhone if you're trying to sneak it into prison up an orifice.
Yeah,
Which is
I
all
mean,
which is
Nintendo-
important
It is-
criteria for sure.
I hadn't thought
It
about
is
that. That should be
far
on the
more
yeah.
useful in the prison wallet than your current electronics. That is true.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And Nintendo basically turned it into a Wii remote. Like that's the Wii remote is the NES
Yeah.
controller just tweaked.
Yeah. That's
So
Yeah.
Yeah, very
Gotta go
thin
with
and
the
very
brand.
fat.
That
That was my nickname in
D-pad,
high school.
There's a
Okay.
reason that they patented that D-pad and why they had that patent for decades. Is because it's just the original. It's the best D-pad form factor I think that's ever been done. I never quite liked the circle disc ones that other companies have done. I did not like the PlayStation segmented monstrosity. We'll get to that later. I always loved the classic D-pad. And when Nintendo messes with the D-pad, I get upset. So
Same.
I like the original for many reasons. So I think that's a clear-cut
I'm
winner.
pretty sure.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure in the summer of 1996, there was a flat tire on the freeway, and I used an NES brick to prop my tire up in lieu of a jack to remove said tire. Reason
Such
number
as the-
455 why the NES controller is the best one on the market.
Such
in
as the
this
power of that
particular bracket.
controller.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Little known fact: in 1991, it was used for an appendectomy in Saskatchewan. So you can check the medical
By
journals on that one.
All right.
Dr. Huzamat. He's very famous for using electronic devices such as NES controllers to save lives.
Yeah.
That is a proven fact. Look that up. It's Wikipedia.
Well documented.
Don't comment that we're wrong later. Okay, so NES Brick wins of the Atari joystick. That's okay. That's totally fair. Our next bracket is this one's a bit odd, so I'm going to ask you guys if you want to include both of them or just one. The Wii Remote and the Nunchuck, or just the Wii Remote on its own, versus the Sega Genesis 3-button controller. What do you guys want to do?
Oh.
Because to me, the
You
Wii
go.
Remote
Come on.
is the Nunchuck are one and the same.
I think
Like-
you have to include the nunchuck.
I think
Nunchuck.
so too.
Yeah, I kind of lean
A
on that.
fellow chucker, eh?
Hey, Chuck.
Yeah, I gotta go that way too, because otherwise, if you're just saying the Wii remote, it's pretty simplistic, or
Yeah.
it's very absurdly overpowered because there's so many other controllers that can plug into it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So you have to specify probably the remote and nunchuck.
Okay, so the remote and nunchuck versus the original Sega 3-button controller. So let me say the 3-button controller on the Genesis controller. What? What's that?
What is that?
That's not it.
Yeah, what the hell is that?
That is a power
That is-
clutch SG.
Look,
is
sir,
not the
you just
original.
spent
It's a spray
minutes
painted
trashing
Advantage.
the Advantage, and you're gonna bring that fucking shit out here now?
I am
I agree.
looking for other things. Unless this is on the list, you shut your Canadian mouth.
You can't bring that joystick monstrosity out here. The Genesis Advantage is better than that shit. Fucking guy.
International Slam.
Wow.
3-button, yes. No, that's the 6-button one. You don't even have.
I'm
Okay.
looking. Shut up.
All
All
Use
right.
your
Well, while
imagination.
you go look, I'm gonna explain why I love the Sega Genesis controller to the 3-button controller, but I'm specific. Okay. Now I want you to take that and get a screwdriver and open that bitch up, and I want you to tell me if you have the original with the steel ball bearing under the D-pad or the plastic nub. The plastic nub version of that controller sucks, but if you have the original Genesis controller with the metal ball bearing under that D-pad, that is the best D-pad I think has ever been done, and I think I like it more than the NES D-pad. But that's the only exception. I love the cross D-pad, but that Genesis controller with the metal ball bearing is amazing, and I have 2 of them that I bought on eBay specifically because of that special ball bearing. So I think Genesis for sure is amazing.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the red button, right? Or is that
Yes.
that the white button?
I think it's the red one. Yeah,
Which
the ink is red
I
on the
have the
controller.
red button.
I'm
'cause-
going to go ahead and lock this in and just say I think the nunchuck controller better than any of the Sega Genesis controller, no matter the ball bearing or whatever. So that's me. So I'm gonna let you all do you.
All
Okay,
right. I'm gonna.
I'll start this. Oh, I
You
was gonna
go.
start,
You go.
but if you
Wolf.
want to.
You got it,
Okay,
baby. No. I've been starting over you. You go.
I am all for ingenuity in controller design. Okay. And while the Wii U or the Wii remote and nunchuck is a cool concept and is great for playing bowling or tennis or things like that, for standard gaming experiences, it sucks. Trying to the pointing at the screen nonsense, constantly having to wave around to swing a sword or whatever, the aiming with it's
Brilliant.
mouse and keyboard is obviously better at first person shooters than a controller, but a controller is better at first person shooters than the Wii remote. It's a cool idea. It's gimmicky as fuck. Give me a Genesis controller over the Wii remote, please.
I still love you, but I mean, come on. I can play Punch Out by punching out. Like that shit's dope.
But the best way
I
to play
could play
Punch Out was by
Skyward
Do
turning
that
it
on
on its
NES
side.
too.
Yeah.
What?
Power Glove, dude. You could have done that on NES. You didn't need a
And
Wii
I
remote
did.
for that.
And I did. I did that also.
And wasn't it great?
Great is a very interesting. That's a strong word. Great. You get used to it, like cafeteria food or the constant threat of terrorism. Sorry, I stumbled
Or
over that one.
Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah, sure, but yeah, I already gave my opinion. I just want to tell you I appreciate you for your courage and bravery, and you're wrong.
All right. I think I'm going to go with. I think I'm going to go with the Genesis controller, and the reason why is A, it's a good controller, it really is, but B, I'm with everybody here where the nunchuck as like a left stick for like say Mario Galaxy, and I love Galaxy, but what am I doing with my arms? Why am I not just like holding like a controller? Like, sure, I can aim at the screen and collect gems, but great.
I have no idea what to do with tomorrow's right now.
It feels really strange. It feels really strange to have like this sort of rock-shaped item in your left hand. It really does. And so, yeah, Genesis controller. Plus the
Final
Genesis
Fantasy
controller.
14 is one of the best 3 Final Fantasies of all time. I don't know if you guys know this.
As voted on by this council, by the way.
Right.
Okay, but the
There are
thing
5 of us in that group that all chose that.
like I respect what the Wii did as a home console. The motion control stuff was very cool, though gimmicky. But when you want to play real games, that's when Nintendo brought in this stupid shoehorning of gimmicks into games you don't want. Like Zelda Skyward Sword. I don't want to wave a freaking magic wand to swing a sword. I just want to use a button to swing a sword. And they do that all the time, and it started with the Wii. They do that in the Switch too, and it drives me nuts. I don't need shoehorn mechanics into real games. That's my thing.
Everybody
I love Wii
wants to
bowling.
Yep. Okay.
I have
love
one
Wii
more
bowling.
argument. I have one more argument. After they released the Wiimote with the nunchuck, they then released the classic controller for the Wii and said, "Here you go. Here's a real controller.
Here's a real
Enjoy."
controller." And even that sucks.
Okay.
And it plugs into the Wii remote to replace the Wii remote.
Did
It
nobody
does.
I bought one
pretend?
because I was tired of that nonsense.
Did nobody as a child pretend to be Link running around with a stick that you would use as a sword? And you want to tell me now that it's time to do gangsta shit, you don't want to be a gangsta? Come on.
Look, slashing, yes. Wagging it around, no. There's a difference there.
I'm an old man. I'll break a hip if I try to do what you're talking about. I'm an old man.
Only if you do it in the shower.
Are we seriously 4-1 on the Genesis winning?
I haven't even gone yet. I'm just waiting
sorry.
for you.
I'm sorry.
I'm waiting for
I'm sorry, I
GP
keep interjecting.
to stop having his meltdown.
Hey, culpa.
GP, are you ready, sir?
No, but go ahead.
I think the Wii remote is huge in innovation.
There's more.
I think listen, I'm on GP on this one. I like swinging the sword. I like wiggling the wand. I like doing all that shit because when I was a kid, I had an avid imagination. I'd run out and I'd pick up a stick and fight shit. That's what I'd do, right? So I do the same thing with the Wii. I get to do it when you pull the fucking bow and arrow back and Link and you shoot it. That's cool as hell. That's sick. But my parents got me a Genesis, and it was the game I played for a very, very long time. This is actually my old Genesis from when I was a kid. This is the same exact one I've always had. And picking up this controller again brought back memories of playing Sonic the Hedgehog all night and getting the Chaos Emeralds. This is more nostalgia for me than anything because I love the innovation of the Wii. I had the Twilight Princess before I even had a Wii because that's how bad I wanted one. But I gotta go with this little guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I didn't expect that to happen. So the Wii remote / nunchuck versus Sega Genesis 3 button controller. Genesis wins. I didn't expect that. Okay.
You have a retro podcast and you didn't fucking expect that.
When do you guys ever agree with the stuff I like? Never.
Come on, you can play Wily Wars on this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know you guys love Wily Wars.
Okay, so after that, if anybody wants to come back to my side, I'm accepting applications now.
Too late. We're moving on.
Because I appreciate the callback, GP. I got another job over here. Sorry.
All right. The Nintendo. Go ahead, Wolf.
I'm still bad at
just
1,000
laughing.
though, just so I know.
Okay. All right. Our next bracket, the Nintendo Switch Pro controller, which just won recently, versus the Xbox 360 controller. So I don't know.
The Wii Pro controller? Is that the...
Sorry, Switch Pro controller. The Switch Pro controller.
The one we discussed earlier.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought it was the one that Wolf just showed. I was like, wow, that's pretty ironic that it was literally right after that.
No. Sorry, I misspoke. The Switch Pro controller versus the 360 Xbox controller.
Cthusiast Jeff just asked a very valid question of, aren't they the same? Because honestly, they really are.
No, you see, this has the buttons,
No.
the X, Y, A, B in the correct positions. Those are in the right spots.
Wow.
Okay, so
Fuck, you want to talk about elitists?
Surface level, yes, they are the same. However, I would like to mention the issue of the batteries with this thing.
Yeah.
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 Now,
Yeah.
here's the huge design flaw in this thing.
Yeah.
It's got this little clippy backside that pops in with 2 AA's or a battery pack
Yep.
or whatever have you. It gets loose over time.
Yep.
And eventually you'll just be playing a game and your controller will rumble and disconnect from your Xbox.
Mine has never gotten loose.
Is that a 360?
Because you take good care
Yeah.
of it.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a
I have
360 because the SX changed the battery design.
Well, you can't see because of the coloring, but yes. So
I have
I'm
two
going with
360
the
controllers.
I'm going with
One of 'em.
GP's Pro controller or whatever.
Switch.
And here's my beef with Xbox. For years, they've been producing this controller. Years. And for some god-awful reason, Microsoft still finds it necessary to put fucking batteries in this controller instead of a rechargeable pack or something that just stays in the unit that doesn't need to be removed. It just needs to be plugged in. So I don't understand why we have to constantly switch batteries in all the Xbox controllers I've ever fucking owned. So
And they do that even today. Even the newest Xbox
Exactly.
controller.
And
that
it
my
makes
my
no sense.
big
Even the
weakness
newest
of it is the
still
batteries.
requires
Yeah.
batteries.
It's a good point. It's a good point for sure.
Some batteries not included. I'm going with the Nintendo one.
Some people
All
just want to watch you change
Yeah,
batteries.
it's Switch for sure.
Switch.
So
all
the
right,
thing with
Michael.
this, and the reason why I think the 360 controller deserves some credit here. First off, the D-pad on it sucks. But I'll argue that the Switch Pro controller D-pad is not the best D-pad that Nintendo's ever done. So I'm gonna.
It doesn't have to be. It just has to be better than the Xbox one we're talking
and it
about,
is
right?
it is better than the 360 controller for sure.
Yeah,
But-
I mean, he's right.
I'm
Okay, so the 360 controller though is PC gaming as it is today was not like this before the 360 era. Controllers on PC used to suck fucking bad, right? You were the mouse and keyboard, and anybody who used a controller on PC, you're probably using a really bad Microsoft Sidewinder. You're probably using a Gravis joystick or something along those lines. It was that god awful was a D input, which never worked right.
Yeah.
And it was terrible experience. It was mouse and keyboard or nothing. You laughed at kids who use controllers on PC until the 360 controller got support on Windows. Total game changer. X input now. It worked. It was easy to connect to your computer. It felt good to play it on a PC. It worked with Steam. Steam is like amazing with the Xbox 360 controller. Suddenly it took a PC and suddenly it was on the same level as a console. If you wanted to play it like a console, you could. That's a total game changer. And it's all because of that controller.
That's a
That's
good
true.
point.
However, if I leave because I'm playing Half-Life. I'm playing Half-Life on my PC with my Xbox 360 controller. Oh shit, I'm late for work, or I have to take a shit, or something happens that requires me to take 6 hours away. Yes, it happens. Sometimes meals are weird. Point
See a doctor.
is that if I leave my controller on and I come back, my batteries are fucked. And now I got to go rob Peter to pay Paul out of my TV remote just so I can keep playing wherever I left off at. Ridiculous. Have you seen the price of batteries these days? Get
Oh, yeah.
off me.
It chews through batteries. Absolutely. I've gone through dozens of batteries in a year with the Xbox controllers. If there's a game that I'm going to play dozens of hours with, I know I'm going to eat through batteries, and it drives me nuts. It really does.
You want to know who's leaving a carbon footprint? All of my Xbox crap. That's what's leaving a carbon footprint right now.
Damage to the
And
environment
it's
is a
the size
factor
of
here.
Sinistar's shoe. It's huge. And his hands,
Okay.
since he has to play with a Duke. He's got big hands.
All right. So I guess
Some people
Pro
just have
controller?
big hands.
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Pro controller.
yeah, I'll go Pro.
Switch Pro controller beats the Xbox 360.
We've all gone pro. What are you talking about?
Speaking
Saying the minor.
Speaking of Microsoft, Sinister, you have to explain this one. The Microsoft Sidewinder 3D joystick versus the Nintendo 64 controller. And
Is
I'll
that
show
that
a
square
picture.
one that you showed the picture of?
No.
No. So this is an actual joystick.
Well-
This. Imagine a larger version of the Atari joystick, but like built well and
Oh
normal.
yeah, dude. I like that. That's the one I got for my Descent playthrough.
With the twisting
Um,
joystick, right? Is that the one? I think.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So this really was kind of like the. So yeah, I was a mouse and keyboard player on PC until MechWarrior 3 came out. And MechWarrior 3 had the ability to move a direction but turn the top of your mech.
Yeah.
And this joystick was built specifically for this. So it is a joystick. It has a throttle on it, but it also has the ability to twist the center. And when you do in games that support it, in case of MechWarrior 3, your mech turns, but you continue in a direction. It was a game changer. It really was.
So this is a good
I
matchup
played the
then.
hell. I played the hell out of Descent with that joystick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Jeff
fantastic
put the
for
same
Descent.
thing.
Yeah.
I love Descent. That was one of my favorite first-person shooters growing up, and
Yeah.
I think I told you and Wolf this story when we were together about how I had a choice to get the Genesis 32X attachment or a Sidewinder and Descent, and I bought Descent and the Sidewinder because I was like hooked.
Correct choice.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And it made playing that night and day difference because I could not figure out the pitch and the turn
Yeah.
on keyboard and mouse.
And
It
you
was
had
awesome.
yaw. You had yaw on the
Yeah.
center, right?
Yep.
As you're moving, you can twist that and
You
turn
spin
and
it. Yeah,
Uh-huh,
it was
yeah,
cool.
uh-huh,
Yeah,
yeah.
I dig that Sidewinder.
That's
Um,
really neat.
So for the N64 controller, I'm going to say a couple words on this one. I don't like this controller. I felt it as yet another weird design by Nintendo, but this is when they first started getting crazy with it. But I will say that analog stick, though, it's not the first analog stick on a home console, but it's one of the first good ones, I think, is what you can chalk it up to.
I'm gonna throw this out here because I'm actively using it at the moment, and it's not just age because I have multiple of these. The analog stick is crunchy.
Yes, it is. It's more tactile than what we use
Yeah.
today. The technology might be a little bit different. And it
Well-
also wears out, unfortunately. But when we look
Yes.
at the analog sticks before this, it was like the Atari 5200, but that analog stick didn't self-center. The N64 stick centers in the middle on its own, and it's springy and it's snappy. And when you're talking about games like Turok or Mario 64, it plays really well with that stick, I think. Again, I don't
Yeah.
like the three-hand design thing at all. I hate that controller, but at least the analog stick, I think, is pretty darn good for what it is.
Yeah, I love the N64 controller, and I know it's a bit of a hot take because with the 3-prong thing, it's just another, body standard that it's impossible for me to live up to. But that said, my biggest thing with the 64 controller is
Don't you dual arm shave me.
right, yeah. Anyway, the joystick is in a segmented cup. It's not a round cup. It's got
Yeah, it's got
Yeah.
details.
the directional.
got
It's
the-
got
which is
details.
very
you can feel
interesting.
it.
But I think that's also part of the reason it would wear out because there were so many games like the Mario Party games where you had to just like
Mhm.
smash it around.
Yeah.
And I wore this is my third hand that I'm on in my life just from
Wait, you're fourth because you need 3 hands to use
I was
this.
gonna
Okay,
say,
yes, there you go.
took the other one off.
So yeah, I don't know. I love it, but I think it's kind of like the Genesis controller was for Chard, where a big portion of my vote is going to go to it just because of the nostalgia and the gaming memories made with that. And I never had a Sidewinder and never really played with one, so I'm going to go 64. But respectfully, I understand if that's not the popular one here.
I think you
the
know my
64
vote.
controller was cool though. Honestly, I thought. Here's the thing. I'm just gonna go out and say this right now. I think Nintendo has been very innovative into every single console that they've released. There's never been. I mean, you've got basically the same damn controllers for PlayStation up to this point. Yes, they're sleeker. Yes, they have different whatever touchpads, but it's essentially the same thing. Xbox, pretty much the same thing, right? They're bulkier, they're smaller, but they still do the same thing. Nintendo had the Brick, the Super Nintendo one, the Advantage, the Power Glove. For all sense purposes, is a piece of shit. Yes, but it's still innovative if you think about it. The
They took
Wii
chances.
nunchucks. I mean, and then you have the weird 3-prong 64 controller that actually worked. Like it worked. It felt weird at first, but it's just like the GameCube controller, where once you figured it out, you were like, oh, this ain't so bad. You were fucking doing backflips with Mario and 64, and you were running around with Zelda stabbing shit, and you were yelling at the camera. That's not the controller's fault, it's the camera part. But I think the innovation of Nintendo is obviously leaps and bounds. I mean, even to this day, they're still doing innovative things with it, but they're keeping like the old school, like the brick. They're still kind of bringing it back. So like, hey, we don't want to get too far away from what's worked for us well, but let's try all these different Joy-Cons and these different Wii remotes and all this other stuff to see what people think. So it's hard. There's going to be a lot of division, I think, because there's so much innovation coming out of Nintendo's consoles versus the Genesis and versus all the other stuff that basically stole from them, essentially.
There's something to be said
So-
about playing like, sorry, Wolf, one sec. Just first person shooters on the N64. Nintendo's controller made those work on a home console, right? The trigger style buttons underneath, and it worked. You strafe with the C buttons even. I think I like the N64 controller more than the GameCube for that reason alone, is I can have dedicated strafe buttons and I have a trigger underneath my finger. It's weird, but I think it works, and they used it well. I appreciate the Sidewinder a lot for what it is. I like the idea of joysticks on PCs back in the day. But when I played MechWarrior, I always preferred playing the keyboard. I just like the expanded buttons. I felt like I was in a mech at my desk. So my vote would be for the N64. Sorry, Wolf, go ahead.
So am I correct in thinking that I'm the tiebreaker on this one? Is it
Yeah,
me?
there's me and Sinistar like the Sidewinder.
Oh, okay.
And GP
And
and
yeah.
Stick Big
Yeah.
like 64.
Okay. I want to mention the analog stick and how well designed it is. I can't tell you how many N64 controllers I've taken apart to clean that analog stick because so much salt gets gathered in that stick and makes it unusable. And even after cleaning it, it's still never right. Never.
Never.
Yeah, like I said, mine
You sound
and I have
deeply wounded by that.
I am.
I have multiple still like real genuine Nintendo 64 controllers, and those analog sticks feel crunchy. They do.
That's because
Like-
there's salt in there.
Yeah. I probably need to clean them.
It's dead skin, which is really nature's lubricant, really, when you think about it. And I think it's
Oh my
fine.
You know,
God.
we're gonna make a steak tonight.
Oh my God.
Hold on.
Milk fed veal.
Crunchy
Milk
because
Just a
fed
little
veal.
seasoning.
Crystals in there getting ground up over and over and over repeatedly over the years. It's disgusting.
Fed veal.
So that's my issue. Like that's my big issue with the N64 controller. It's sure, like you look at it, you're like, what alien beast was supposed to be using this thing when it first released? But and I remember everybody in school was like, what the hell is this? What are they thinking? But it's usable because the games always just let you one or the other, right? Except I think Mischief Makers used both the analog stick and the D-pad at the same time, which huge
That's weird.
downside
Okay.
Yeah.
because you could reach over to do something on the D-pad. Is
Wolf, when you reached puberty, you didn't grow your center chest arm?
no,
Oh.
Hey, don't
I don't like to
dual
talk
arm
about
shame
it.
him.
So
We
are you
covered this.
voting for the Sidewinder then?
I don't know because I've never used one.
We're back in.
So I
We're back in, baby.
Yay!
Any joystick
need-
that
Do
makes
I
you
need to
feel like
go
you're in a
get
flight simulator.
do I need to go get William fucking Shatner?
No,
Oh,
please
boy.
no.
No,
You
he has
don't
no
need the
lines
hat.
in this
I
play.
don't-
Search your feelings, Luke.
Think about with me
Okay,
and the
so-
Xbox, I like the Xbox, but I hated the batteries.
No, campaigning
And
is
there's
over.
a-
It's time to vote.
Okay, so there's a lot of stuff that I dislike about the N64 controller. And I will say some of it is the design of the games themselves and not the controller. You ever get that blister in the center of your palm from Mario
Oh, yeah.
Party?
Yes.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was showing my scars earlier.
That
yeah.
was not the N64 controller's fault. It took a fucking beating. Not to mention, they pioneered the external rumble pack that you plug into the controller
and the memory card.
and the memory card in the controller, which was revisited by numerous platforms over the years after that.
My man.
So, It's a tight race, but I'm going N64 on this one.
Okay.
It's not bad.
I'm
it's
sorry,
not
guys.
bad. It's
I'm
No,
sorry.
I like the controller. I just have better relation with the Sidewinder myself.
Took me
Yeah,
on
the
a journey.
64 genuinely is one of my favorite consoles of all time, period. I'm not going to feel bad if the 64 controller wins. I'm not. I had
Same. I
more
did.
joy with
I
the
did.
Sidewinder. I did. But I also had tons of joy with the N64 controller.
Okay.
The fact that Jake selected the N64 controller is what blows my mind. The fact that we were even at a tie.
It'll be
I never
gone in the
had a
next round. Don't worry
Sidewinder.
about it.
I never had a, and
He's
like I
going to
said,
be number one, and he's going to be like, guys, I don't know
Well,
how the hell we got
we got to get there
N64's
first.
number one controller.
But I mean,
It's
it
not.
did some cool stuff. I think there was the Pokemon cartridge attachment, as mentioned by Jeff. There was the e-reader attachment. There
Yeah.
was
Innovation.
Yes,
It was innovative.
Oh,
That's Nintendo.
Like,
that
for sure.
controller allowed for some new stuff that hadn't been done before, and that's really cool.
All right, moving
Something
on.
interesting, by the way. Something interesting, really quick, by the way, that I saw. No, I literally saw this the other day on a video. Somebody figured out that there is actually enough power from the 64 to actually power the Rumble Pack. You just have
Oh,
to.
I thought you were
going
going to say like a small
You-
town in North Canada.
No, you just have to open up your 64 controller and jumper 2 points on the circuit board. The points are already there. They probably jumpered them in the testing.
Weird. Oh, because they had
that-
batteries. Is that what it was?
The Rumble Pack had batteries.
Oh, didn't realize that. Okay, I forgot all about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, they made that
Hmm.
the N64 will actually provide enough power. You just have to go jumper those 2 points. On
Interesting.
The board. Yeah.
Fun
Okay.
fact, if you make a wet landing in a plane and you fall out of the plane, you can use the N64 controller as a flotation device. I don't know.
It'll save your life one day.
If you wrap it, you got to wrap it around your neck, and then it'll float you.
All right,
Don't
we gotta
do
do
that.
this
If
quick.
you're listening, don't do that.
No, don't do that.
Don't do that.
Dude,
Don't
quick.
don't
Like putting
Where the
don't
hell are
slam
we?
don't
Yeah.
slam your Switch into
Hey,
a
what
body
bracket
of
are
water.
we on now?
Yeah.
We're about halfway through.
Oh my
wow.
God.
Do we want to
The
finish
whole
the,
episode or the brackets?
of like we're about halfway through the episode? Do we want to finish this round of brackets and then do a part 2?
It might be
I
fine
think
with
that would warrant this. Yes.
I
Okay.
think that'd be fine.
All right, so we have. Let's do a few more matchups, and then we'll call it there, and we'll do part 2 because part 2 will be there's some good matchups there that we're going to be fighting over. So let's
It's
just
gonna
do
get
that.
heated.
It will.
It's gonna get heated.
All right, so let's go through these a little bit quicker then. So we got this is another one from you, Sinistar. The CH Mach 2 versus the
Okay.
PS5 DualSense. I'm sorry.
Oh no.
Oh,
Oh no. Okay.
that's easy.
What is this
Yeah.
for? I'm gonna put up on the screen for the people watching. It's like for the people listening, it's like a beige square, not unlike an Atari
gross.
joystick, but it has a bunch of
Yeah.
sliders and stuff on it.
Okay. Yes. So it works both as a joystick, which it will return to center if you want. Those bottom and the right switch turn off the centering so that you can actually use it as something that were like, say, a flight stick, right? Where you needed to and then the little spinners are so that you can center it, because back in the day they didn't have auto centering joysticks, right? This was
Right.
this was an Apple II device. Those little black sliders, those are actually trim for flight simulators. It was designed both as a joystick and as a flight stick.
This?
Yes.
Oh,
Huh.
weird. Okay.
I
Yeah.
can
It
see
looks
why this
like-
thing had the feature of return to sender. Get it out of
Right.
the
Oh.
PS5.
It looks like it is a bit of technology that you would find in the background of a Star Wars movie.
I was gonna say Alien, but yes,
Yeah.
When did
it's
this
got
come
that
out?
it
kind of
looks
vibe,
like
that
a
aesthetic.
Nostromo window opener.
This was 80s. This was on my Apple II. This was in the 80s.
80s. Okay. That's
Yeah.
wild that this is
And-
something that was out in the 80s. That's pretty revolutionary.
It looks
Um,
like a number 2.
And
You're
then
taking some bulky dumps, and I'm concerned about you, my friend.
this is not something that would fit in
High
the prison
fiber.
wallet. This is not something that would fit in the prison wallet. But those 4 points on the edges, because we've brought up having the ability to like figure out where you are on an analog stick, they very much were. It was easy to find upper left, bottom left,
So you're telling me that I need to take a course in topography and statistics to operate this pile of garbage.
Sure.
Fantastic. Let's go PS5 because it's the better controller.
You know, as much as I love that PS5 controller, Sinistar's speaking to me here, and I think I got to go with the CH Mach 2. I just something about that design, so 80s, so revolutionary. I just think it's just the superior controller.
You know what that is? That's Jake's elitism coming out again because he doesn't want to admit that the PS5 is a better controller over anything. He would rather have my dog's coiled up shit plugged into his computer and play something off of that than the PS5.
What's up with the
He'd be
D-pad?
like, you know what?
The PS5,
It's a little smelly, but it's really good on the turns.
that D-pad is hideous. I don't know why I just said you guys like it. Like, it just looks terrible. It feels terrible in the thumbs. Yeah, that segment of D-pad I've never liked. It's gross. I can't stand it. You know what? If it had a better D-pad, I might be considering it, but I can't stand that D-pad. I'm sorry. I never could.
These nuts, pad.
CH Mach 2 all the way. I think it's a superior controller. And it's revolutionary. The controls on one stick, that's insane.
Oh my God. Get this guy a pole because his reach is out of control.
Werewolf. What's yours? What's your opinion? I'm sure you're tired of being the tiebreaker.
I love a creative tool as much as the next guy, for Photoshop and video editing and whatnot. I don't play video games with them specifically. I usually use a controller for that. And the PS5 controller, as we said earlier, looks really damn comfortable to me because the PS4 controller is. So, I'm sorry, Torbox. I'm giving it to the PS5.
All right.
So, wait, do I get to be the tiebreaker then?
You do.
Sounds
Yes,
like I get to
so.
be a tiebreaker.
Yeah.
PS5. Let's move on.
Yeah. Okay. Sure.
Beautiful. I'm sorry that my degree in architecture doesn't fit for your goddamn controller.
Yeah, this thing looks great for AutoCAD or something, but
Yeah,
Yeah, right?
looks like straight out
I'm
the
gonna
80s. Look at
design
it.
a
Look at
layout
that
of
It's a very
perfect
cool
cube.
aesthetic.
It's
It's
Yeah.
a very cool aesthetic.
it's a fucking joystick, people.
Yeah. You guys
I
expect
showed
too
you
much.
Add it
that
on the list
Warlock
just to
in
Apparently, it's not listening.
Discord earlier, and you were like, "Nope," but here you
Yeah.
are defending this.
Yeah,
thing.
that thing
here
had
we are.
87. That thing had 87 controls on it. This functions as a joystick or a flight stick. That is the two modes.
Jacques Cousteau used that to control his cameras on his goddamn boat. Get out of here with that.
The thing I showed you earlier has a D-pad and like a knob, an analog touchpad. It looks like a wheel, a couple of buttons, knobs. Like it's got it all.
Well,
it's
it's
just
a
the
fidget
evolution of
cube.
this.
I
Yeah.
was gonna say this one has 2 extra knobs with it.
Oh,
So-
nice.
Oh, all
For
right.
anybody who's
You can't
listening
even
in, he's
point in the
pointing.
right direction.
Yeah, it's you're
It
pointing
worked-
at werewolf,
it worked
sir.
in Melon.
You're
It
pointing-
doesn't work
I'm a
here.
Pointing
knob.
at werewolf.
You're pointing the
Yeah,
guy
you
that
just pointed
sided
at me
with you.
twice.
Look,
All right.
look, werewolf. If I want to spin up my version of track and field arcade cabinet and I need a spinner wheel, I'll go grab your controller that you shared.
I mean, that's what that thing that's what this looks like to me. Is a creative tool.
Yeah.
Great
It does.
for
It does look
Photoshop
like one.
or, what
Yeah.
When I'm
Horror
trying to
They have
play,
drones.
because we're
Hey,
talking
do they
about
have
the 80s.
drones in the 1980s? Because that looks like a drone controller.
when I'm trying
Did they
to
have drones
play,
in the 80s? We're the
when
same
I'm trying to
age.
play, when I'm trying to play Missile Command, I'll go get your controller.
Jesus Christ.
All right.
Yeah.
Is this from War Games?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. That looks like something Matthew Broderick had to use in a movie that they thought would be future tech.
I'm
All
pretty
right.
sure I saw Val Kilmer run around with it. Real genius.
Scott Bakula's friend from Quantum Leap had to use that for Ziggy in the original pilot episode. Look it up, millennials. Come on.
All right. CH Mach 2 joystick thing versus the PS5 DualSense. For some reason, the PS5 DualSense wins. I don't know.
For
all
some
right.
reason.
Let's do one more, and then we're going to call it as a part one because this is would be too crazy. The Sega Dreamcast controller versus the 8-bit Do SN30. I'll say real quick, the SN30 was one of my favorite controllers until just recently. I've used that for the PC. I've used it for the Switch. I've used it with the Mister. I've used that in so many different things. I love the SN30. It's a stellar controller, and they are only one of the only few companies that makes an amazing D-pad. They got that cross style thing, and the SN30 is just such a workhorse out of all the 8BitDo stuff. That's great. I will say though, for the Dreamcast controller, although I'm not a fan of it, especially the cord being in the weird place, but the VMUs, there's nothing else like it. The idea of a memory card that lets you play little tiny games on it is insane.
Sorry,
it's a gimmick, but it's really cool. So I don't know.
Hey, I'm the one who wanted to put the SN30 on this list. Okay.
Yeah.
This
Fair.
is my
Well,
controller.
you didn't.
Really.
I know you love that console and the controls and stuff. So
I do love the Dreamcast.
Yeah.
I don't love that the cord was
That's
like
so
a butt plug
weird.
for this
Bottom.
thing. I don't
Yeah.
understand.
why'd they do that?
They even knew it was an issue because they put this little thing
A
here
notch.
so that you could lock the cord to go up instead of down. Like they're
Well, they
like, we
obviously
did
put
it
it in
wrong.
for that-
Sorry guys, but we'll just do this.
Well, they put it in for that orifice. I'm sure they were like, we can't get the power thing in here and have this connector.
Yeah,
we already printed the circuit boards. We hadn't made the back yet.
Yeah.
So let's
But I
just
mean,
fix
Jim, you forgot to put the plug on it.
I'm gonna show you something. They've already got electrical
Jeez.
components coming up the top of this, right? They could have run the
Right.
cord out of here in the back instead of having you Mickey Mouse it up there instead.
Yep.
And
and kink your cord.
inevitably, do damage to the cord. Like I can see all sorts of little chewy marks on my cord from doing
Maybe
that.
it's
And-
maybe the
and
notch
your
is there so
bend-
if you pull the controller, it comes loose, so you're not yanking it too hard. It's not going to break the cord. Maybe that's why they designed it that way.
No, it's so that
No?
it goes up, so it's not like
So it's not going
your
into your
lap.
crotch. It's not
Yeah.
going into
Every
your crotch.
Dreamcast comes with a roll of electrical tape.
I don't know. Yeah, like I said, it's not my
SN
favorite controller by a long shot. Although the D-pad or the analog stick on it is not bad, but it's the VMUs I think is what sets that controller apart. Really,
For sure.
Well, so the actual the buttons, the tactile feel of this thing, great. The layout is not great. Like the analog, I'm pretty sure the L and R were analog on the Dreamcast.
they were.
They feel really good. The D-pad on the Dreamcast is, it's okay. It's a little squishy. The analog is pretty good. The buttons feel great. It's weird that the start button is way down here. Like I don't understand why
It's
took
because
so
they've
long
they've already decided the cable's in your crotch. You might as well press the start button. in
Yeah,
your
we're gonna
crotch,
run the
too.
cord
Putting
down here.
everything
May
as
as well stick
far
a
away
button
from
there.
the port as possible. Just move
But-
it all up.
And they took what Nintendo did with the N64 and were like, hey, we could do that really cool. Let's do the visual memory unit, which is super cool. I love the VMU.
Yeah.
It gave you for sports games when you were playing with your friends, like back in the day, and I'm not a sports gamer, but I think this is rad. You could pick your plays on the VMU
Yes, in
instead
Blitz.
of right for everybody to see, right?
Yep.
That's super cool. They put UI aspects onto the VMU that were not always visible on the screen. I think Resident Evil did it with your health monitor, so you could
sick.
see just how much damage you
That's
had taken.
Yeah.
I like that.
Instead of having to pause it and see the little
Yeah.
And
and
certain
then-
games would give you the little game that you could play on the VMU.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right,
Like the Chow thing from
Skies of
Skies of
Arcadia.
Arcadia. Yes.
no,
that's
the
great.
Chow thing was
Tamagotchi. Absolutely.
Sonic games, all Sonic games for some reason, but
Right. Yeah.
the Skies of Arcadia had, I want to say, 1 or 2 VMU games, but that one VMU game where you were treasure hunting was really cool. Not only that, but I think I had hacked my VMU and I made a little cartoon on it that I could take to school and share with friends. Like it was super
Wow.
cool that I could
That's
just
cool.
do all this stuff with the VMU. It was a Tamagotchi that you could plug into your Dreamcast on the go,
Yeah.
right? It did a lot. And then they also factored for the Rumble pack in it instead of having it built in, which is fine. But yeah, the Dreamcast had a lot going for it. But I gotta go 8BitDo on this thing. That's my favorite
Okay.
controller of all time right there.
I want to call out that I'm going with 8BitDo, and the reason why is because all of the innovations that the Dreamcast controller did have not translated into modern controllers for a reason.
Right.
It's a damn
They have
shame.
not.
That stuff
No,
sounds
it's
cool.
it is
Yeah.
cool, but it also meant, oh, I have to have it was a little watch
Well-
battery for the VMUs. Like
Mhm.
I'm gonna have to go buy a watch battery. But
Yeah.
no,
I
it's
mean,
to your
essentially,
point,
this is our new VMU, right?
right?
I mean,
Yeah.
Right. But
It's
basically, like all of the features that were innovative, like it was a controller plus those innovations, and the controller piece has continued forward. I'm going with the 8-bit dough.
yeah. Mm. I hear what you're saying, and I think you're right. I think the innovations were there, and if they had more influence the future of gaming, maybe this vote would go a different way. I think the Dreamcast controller is essentially the laser disc equivalent of controllers. Really, really cool stuff, and they did it early on. But then other companies came out not too long after and did it better in a different way. So I will say this: I don't have an 8-bit dough. I covet one, and it's on my list of things to get because I know that will become my main controller for literally everything that is not directly a console. My only hesitation with voting for the 8-bit dough is, let's say later on the Super Nintendo controller comes on, I'm going to vote for the Super Nintendo controller over the 8-bit dough, and I will bury
It's
the
hard to
lead on
argue
that
that,
one
though.
until we
Yeah.
finish this episode out. But I think for this one, I've got to go with 8-bit dough. I'm familiar enough with it to feel confident with that. But I don't see me voting on that later on for it to be the winner. But I do think it beats out the VMU.
And that's going to be a big discussion later if
Yeah.
it comes to that, because one of the reasons why I love the 8-bit dough is that, like, the one I have is just is styled after the SNES controller, including the two buttons are concave and the other two are convex, and I love
Yep.
that feel, and that's why I love that controller. Playing Warframe with the SN30 is wild. That I'm playing a modern game on a Retro Spire controller, but the quality of the buttons is so high. And like, even when I compare the 8-bit dough versus a Switch Pro controller, I rather the 8-bit dough's SNES style buttons. The plastic feels way better. It's a really well built controller. So yeah, for me, it's SN30 as well.
Okay.
Is anybody voting for
Great.
Dreamcast then?
No, I mean, as innovative as everything sounded on the Dreamcast, you guys hit the nail on the head. It didn't go any further than it did. The idea of having my health and like and heads up display on my controller as opposed to inside the actual display of the screen, that sounds incredible. What are you laughing at?
I should have muted that. I'm sorry. I can't say it. I don't think it's safe for the show.
Fair. We'll talk about it afterwards.
Okay.
But to have it accessed somewhere where I didn't have to look on the screen, which is one of the reasons why I like Dead Space so much, is because of how immersive it is into the game, where they take all that out and you have nothing but the world to look at. I have gone through several of these different 8-bit duos. The company has sent me out replacement rubber pads to go underneath
Mhm.
each direction button and the keyboard and the buttons. These are super easy to take apart, super easy to repair and put back together.
Yeah.
It works exactly the same way it did when I first got it.
Yep.
It feels like a Super Nintendo controller, which I'm right there with GP. If this thing goes up against the Super Nintendo, it's going to lose every day. But because it's so close to being one and I can play my retro games on it, and it still feels like I'm playing the old school Super Nintendo controller while playing Secret of Mana, Chrono Trigger, whatever, it brings that nostalgia back. We are a retro podcast, so anything that brings nostalgia back into my life is going to definitely control. So 8-bit duo all the way over the Dreamcast controller.
Yeah, the Dreamcast cool features are very much kind of like that, where you like do that drive by and you're like, wow, that was cool. And then you don't think about it again, right?
You're doing drive-bys saying that's cool and then never thinking about one again?
Yeah.
If
I'm
we ever
thug.
did an episode
I'm that
on
cool.
Super
I'm
thug.
that fucking cool.
if we ever do an episode on like accessories or peripherals, however you say that word, like the zapper and the power pad and all that stuff, I almost say the VMU could be put into that episode and might have a
Yeah.
better chance.
Hell
But
yeah,
as a
I agree.
controller, yeah, I think the 8-bit dough. So I think we're unanimous on this one, I guess. Well, if you were 8-bit dough as well, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
All right. So Sega Dreamcast controller versus the 8-bit dough SN30. 8-bit dough wins. We're going to stop there because this is halfway through our brackets, because there's more discussion than I expected for controllers, but that's okay. That's really good. So we'll call this a part 1, and then we'll figure out when we can do a part 2. but this is great. Sister, what have you been doing lately? Is anything you want to anybody or anything you want to shout out?
I'll shout out Chard. I hang out in Chard's channel.
Thank you.
I'll also shout out Steam Deck. Get one.
Sure.
Hell yeah.
Wolf, what about you?
No, just keep listening to us jibber jabber about crap, please.
Please.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell your friends.
GP, how about you?
Well, I'm concerned because you guys are my friends. I have no one else to tell.
That's why we keep showing up. We like it
Right.
so much here.
That's why we're here.
Chard, how about you? You stream, I think, don't you?
Yes, I do. I just played Choo Choo Charlie today, which was great. That's actually a really good game. Yeah, Twitch, hanging out with these guys. We the Nemesis team sat down and watched the awards show yesterday and had a great time doing that too. So you guys can catch me over at Nemesis as well. So but find us all here. Watch all these guys when they do stream or they do go on YouTube. They don't do it often, but when they do, it's a treat. So go and watch Jake, Sinistar,
Yeah.
Retro Therapy, Werewolf. All these guys are here. They have their stuff on YouTube too. Go find their stuff and watch their stuff too. There's some really good stuff these guys put out there, and they're too goddamn modest to say anything about it. So
Well, speaking
I'm
of modesty,
super vain, so it's expected of me to be like super vain about it. But these guys also make fantastic content. They're just not as regular about it as I am. But please go check out Retro Therapy, Sinistar 77, Werewolf, and Sick Jake.
well, I'm going to be modest and shout out something. So I actually was a guest on the Remember 64 podcast this week. So go check out Remember
Jesus,
64.
Now it's all about you, Jake. Jesus
Yeah, it's all
Christ.
about me. Center Square. Fuck you. Remember 64 podcast. We talked about the Blast Corps on the N64. Please check that episode out. He's a good guy. It was a lot of fun doing that episode with him. Help spread some awareness to other gaming podcasts because there's only a handful of us podcasts that do games, you know. Otherwise, I am working on a YouTube video for the Snackbox Micro. I finally picked one up, and I love it enough that I want to do a video on it. So I will put that to YouTube, and I will humbly pitch that on the podcast in the future. All right, everybody. This has been Press B to Cancel. Look forward to an episode 2 on controllers as we work through the remainder of the brackets and declare the ultimate controller, both retro and modern, next time.
Next time, Gadget. Next time.